I saw her sleeping one night, and something invisible was breathing beside her, slow, deep, and heavy. But she was alone on the bed. This story still gives me chills. It happened in 2019. That year I moved back home to our family compound in a small village in Anambra State. Things were rough in the city. I lost my job, my rent expired, and I had nowhere else to go. So I packed my things and returned to my father's old house, where my cousin Ada was still living. The compound was built long ago by our grandfather. It was big, but falling apart. Rain would leak through the zinc roof, the walls were cracked, and bush had started growing around the fence. It had that old smell, dust, old cement, and something else I couldn't explain. Like something that had been hiding in the dark for too long. Ada was already there when I arrived. She had been staying alone for about a year after her parents died in a car accident. She looked okay, but something was off. She didn't smile much. She didn't like to talk unless you asked her something. And her eyes always looked tired, like she wasn't sleeping well. I thought maybe it was just grief. At first, things were normal. I took the room near the kitchen, and Ada stayed in the bigger room by the window. We lived quietly. She mostly kept to herself, and I didn't disturb her. But then I started hearing sounds at night. The first time, it was just footsteps, soft, slow footsteps in the corridor. But when I opened my door to check, no one was there. Ada's door was closed. The second time, I heard whispering. A man's voice. Deep. Muffled. Like someone was talking to her in her room. Again, I got up, opened my door, nothing. I didn't want to panic. Maybe I was just hearing things. But one night, something happened that I'll never forget. It was around 2 a.m. I had woken up to pee, and as I passed Ada's room on my way to the toilet, I heard breathing. It wasn't hers. It was too loud. Too deep. Like the sound a man makes when he's in deep sleep. But her door was slightly open, and I could see inside. She was on the bed alone. No one else was there. But I swear, I heard someone breathing beside her. She was lying on her side, and her back was arched slightly, like she was holding something or someone. But there was nothing there. Just space. And yet, I could hear the sound. That slow, heavy breathing. It wasn't from her mouth. It wasn't normal. I felt my chest tighten. I tiptoed back to my room and didn't sleep again. In the morning, I asked her if she had a visitor the night before. She just looked at me and said, no, that was it. I tried to act normal, but I started watching her. Every night, I would stay up late, listening. And every night, that same sound came back. Sometimes, I even heard the bed creaking like someone was moving beside her. But no one ever came in or out of that room. After a while, I noticed something else. Men didn't come to the house. She was a beautiful girl. Quiet, gentle, respectful. But no man ever visited her. Not one. I asked her once if she had a boyfriend. She just shook her head and said, they don't stay. She didn't explain further. One evening, a guy came around. His name was Chima. He said he was interested in her and asked me if he could say hello. I told him to try. She was in the kitchen at the time. When he greeted her, she looked at him, smiled faintly, and said hi. That was all. Chima left that day and never came back. I called him later and asked why. He said, bro, something about her spirit. I don't know. I just felt cold when I was near her. I laughed it off, but deep down, I wasn't laughing. A week later, he told me he had a strange dream. He said he saw a man standing over his bed, staring at him. The man didn't talk. He just watched. then turned and walked into a wall. Chima started falling sick after that. I don't know if it was connected. But I remember the heavy breathing beside Ada, and I started to believe it was all real. That's when I decided to talk to her. One night, I waited until we were both in the sitting room. I turned off the TV and said, Ada, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. She didn't say anything. Just looked at me. I said, who comes to sleep with you at night? She didn't answer immediately. Her lips started shaking. Then tears dropped from her eyes. She said, he's not a man, not a real one. That's when I knew. My blood went cold. She told me everything. She said it started after her first period, back when she was still in school. She had a dream where a man gave her a ring. The man looked normal, handsome, tall, with calm eyes. In the dream, he said she belonged to him. When she woke up, her finger was sore, like something had pressed hard on it. After that dream, strange things began. Anytime a boy came close to her, the boy would fall ill. After that night, I couldn't stay calm anymore. I started sleeping with my Bible under my pillow. I would pray before bed, even though I was never that religious before. But when you hear a spirit breathing in your house, all those old childhood prayers come back quickly. I didn't know what to do about Ada. I wanted to help, but I was also scared. Every time I looked at her, I imagined that man lying next to her at night, touching her, watching her. I hated it. It made me feel sick. But she never looked scared. Just tired. Like someone who had accepted their prison. Then, something happened that made it worse. One Saturday evening, a man came to the compound. His name was Ebuka. He used to like Ada when we were kids, and he had just come back from the city. He looked good, well-dressed, confident, carrying small nylon bags with bread and fruit. I knew what he came for. He greeted me, said he heard Ada was around and wanted to say hello. I warned him without warning him. I said, she's not like before. Just greet and go. He laughed and said, guy, I just won't talk. She came out to see him, and they sat in the plastic chairs under the mango tree. I was watching from my window. They laughed a few times. She smiled. He smiled more. Then she went inside. He left shortly after. By 10 p.m. that night, the screaming started. It wasn't Ada, it was Ebuka. I ran outside, and I saw him in the compound, rolling on the ground. Like someone poured acid on him. He was shouting, leave me. Leave me. I didn't touch her. I didn't touch her. Neighbors rushed in. His shirt was torn, eyes red, mouth foaming. They took him to a prayer house that same night. The next morning, his sister came to the compound and asked Ada what happened. Ada just stood there, silent. The woman spat on the ground and walked away. Ebuka didn't come back to himself for 2 weeks. That was when I knew I had to leave that house. But something wouldn't let me. I don't know how to explain it. I felt like I was being watched every time I packed my bag. Like something didn't want me to go. The atmosphere in the house would change, cold, heavy. I would hear footsteps behind me but see no one. One night, I was lying in bed when I felt pressure on my chest. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My eyes were open, and I saw my door slowly swing open, even though I had locked it. Nothing entered the room. But the air became cold. I felt breath on my neck, hot and slow. Then, a voice whispered in my ear, she is mine. I passed out. When I woke up, it was morning, and the door was wide open. That day, I went to the village elder, Pa Okonkwo. He was over 80, but still sharp. I didn't tell him everything. Just said, something is wrong with Ada. I think she's being followed. He nodded slowly and asked, does she sleep alone? I said yes. He said, she is not alone. Then he told me a story. He said in the old days, some girls were claimed by Miwodi, spirit husbands. Sometimes it happened because their mothers dedicated them to something while still in the womb. Sometimes, they were marked by spirits from the river, those who didn't complete a promise from past generations. He said once the spirit takes a woman, it becomes jealous. It stops her from marrying. It fights every man that comes near. It visits her in the night like a real husband. And it doesn't like interference. I asked, is there a way to break it? He said, if the spirit is strong, you need someone stronger. Either a real man of God or a true Dibia. But be ready. It will fight back. That night, I couldn't sleep. Ada didn't come out of her room all day. When I knocked, she said she was tired. The next morning, I went to a small prayer camp at the edge of the village. It was run by a quiet pastor named Ezekiel. He wasn't flashy like the big ones in town. He just prayed, fasted, and helped people in silence. I told him everything. He listened. Then said, bring her here. If she agrees to be free, we will fight. So I went home, heart racing, and told her. At first, she said no. He will kill me, she whispered. I said, do you want to live like this forever? She looked at me with those tired eyes. Then slowly nodded. We made plans to take her to the prayer camp the next morning. But that night was the worst. The night before we were to take Ada to the prayer camp, everything in that house changed. Around 11 p.m., the light started flickering. The bulbs dimmed and brightened again like someone was playing with the switch. But there was no power surge in the neighborhood, only in our house. Then came the noise. It started as whispers. Dozens of them, like many people speaking at once, but not clearly. Then the whispers turned to groans. The whole compound seemed to breathe. I know it sounds mad, but I swear, walls vibrated. The floor felt warm. And then cold. My room door began to rattle. I ran to Ada's door. It was open. She was lying on the floor, eyes wide, lips moving but no words coming out. She was pointing toward the corner of the room. There was nothing there. But I felt it. Heavy. Cold. Watching. I grabbed her arm, pulled her up, and said, we're leaving now. She couldn't walk. Her legs were shaking too much. So I carried her. As I passed the sitting room, the mirror on the wall cracked. Just one loud snap like a slap from an invisible hand. Outside, the wind started blowing hard even though there were no clouds in the sky. Just dry wind, fast and noisy, swirling dust around us like a warning. We made it to the road. I waved down a bike. The rider looked at us like we were mad, but he didn't ask questions. We rode straight to Pastor Ezekiel's camp. The prayer camp was quiet, just a small hall with cement floor and wooden benches. There were a few candles burning. The moment we entered, Ada fell to the ground and started screaming. The pastor came out from a small side room. He looked at her, then looked at me, and said, she's already marked. He told us to put her on a mat near the altar. Then he started to pray. At first, it was normal. Simple prayers. Bible verses. Nothing too dramatic. But then, Ada's voice changed. She started laughing. Not her normal laugh. This one was deep, rough, and mocking. Leave her alone, the voice said. She is mine. I have paid for her. The pastor didn't stop. He prayed louder, calling on fire, calling on angels, speaking in strange tongues. Ada's body started jerking. Her arms stretched out like something was pulling them. Her mouth opened wide, too wide for a human mouth, and something like a shadow poured out, just for a second. Then she passed out. The pastor told me to stay and fast for 3 days with her. We did. Each night. The spirit came back. Each night, we fought. Ada would shake, scream, twist on the floor, spit, sweat, curse. Then she'd go silent. Then it would start again. On the third night, the candles in the prayer hall all blew out by themselves. The pastor lit them again and told me not to be afraid. Then he asked me to bring something personal that belonged to Ada, something old, something that had been with her since the beginning. I remember the small box under her bed. Earlier, she had shown it to me. It was wooden, carved with strange shapes. Inside it was an old ring. The same one from the dream she had when she was a girl. The ring was dark brown now, almost black, and warm to the touch. I brought it to the camp. When the pastor touched it, he hissed. He said, "This is the covenant." He put the ring in a bowl, poured oil and salt on it, and began to pray. The bowl shook on its own. Then the ring cracked. Just a small crack, but as soon as it did, Ada screamed from her sleep. She sat up like someone shocked her awake. Then silence. No more screams. No more groaning. She looked around, confused. "Where am I?" she whispered. The pastor looked tired. Very tired. He said, "If she sleeps tonight and the spirit does not return, she is free." We stayed and waited. That night, Ada slept like a child. No heavy breathing. No shadows. No whispers. Just peace. But this story doesn't end there. 3 days later, we returned to the house. It felt different. The air was light. The cracks on the walls still there, but the house didn't feel dark anymore. Ada started smiling again. She cleaned the house, opened windows, danced to old songs on her phone. It was like a new life. A few weeks later, a man visited. Not just any man, her old classmate, Emeka, who had moved to Lagos. He came with food, joked with her, asked her to go out for drinks. She said yes. That night, no screams. 2 weeks passed. He kept coming. They got closer. One day, he asked her to marry him. She said yes. But the day before the wedding, I had a dream. In the dream, I was back in Ada's room. She was on the bed, asleep. I could hear breathing again. Slow. Heavy. Like before. I turned, and there he was, the spirit. He wasn't angry. Just watching. He looked at me and said one thing, "I'll be back." Then I woke up. The wedding went ahead. Small, simple, and beautiful. Just family and close friends. Ada wore a white gown with blue beads. Emeka looked proud, holding her hand like she was the most precious thing in the world. But the dream stayed with me. The spirit said, "I'll be back." I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just my fear talking. Maybe I was too close to the situation. But part of me, deep inside, knew something was not done. Ada and Emeka moved to Lagos after the wedding. We all thought it was a new beginning. She would send voice notes now and then, laughing, sounding light and happy. She said Emeka treated her well. That they were planning to start a small business. Things seemed fine. But after 2 months, the messages stopped. No calls. No text. I tried reaching out. Her number didn't go through. I called Emeka, nothing. It wasn't until the 3rd week that I got a call from an unknown number. It was Emeka's sister. She was crying. She said Ada was in the hospital. Something happened at night. Emeka woke up and found her on the floor, bleeding from her nose and ears. She was unconscious. He rushed her to the hospital. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong. No injuries. No illness. But she wouldn't wake up. I traveled to Lagos that same day. When I got to the hospital, I saw Ada lying on the bed. Pale. Still. Like a statue. The room was cold, and I swear it felt familiar. That same chill from the old house. That same heaviness. I touched her hand. It was ice. Emeka looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. Eyes sunken, voice broken. He said she was fine. We went to bed laughing. Then, I don't know. I asked him, have you had any dreams? He nodded slowly. One dream, he said. There was a man standing at the foot of our bed. He said, she is mine. I told you. That's when I knew. The spirit never left. It just waited. Waited. Until everyone thought it was over. Then came back, stronger. We called Pastor Ezekiel again. He told us to bring Ada back to the village. But the hospital wouldn't release her in that condition. She was in a coma, and they were still running tests. So he told us to try something from where we were. He gave instructions, buy a bowl of river sand. Get holy oil and white cloth. Place a mirror at her bedside, but face it away from her. Then at midnight pray for exactly 1 hour and call her full name 3 times. We did everything as he said. That night, Emeka and I stayed in the hospital room. The nurses allowed us because we paid extra. At exactly midnight, we lit the candle, poured the oil on her feet, and started praying. 30 minutes in, the mirror cracked. Not shattered. Just one long, slow crack down the middle. Then the temperature dropped. It was freezing. The candle blew out. Ada started whispering. We leaned close. Her lips were moving fast, but the words weren't hers. It was a strange language. Old, raw, almost like growling. Then she screamed. Loud. So loud, the nurses ran in. She sat up, eyes wide, pupils rolled back. Then she looked straight at me and said, "You can't take her." I shouted, "Leave her alone." She started choking, twisting, shaking. The nurses held her down. Suddenly, she collapsed. Then, silence. Her eyes slowly rolled back into place. She looked around, blinking. She said, Where am I?" The nurses checked her. Heart rate normal. Breathing steady. She was awake. But I didn't feel relief. Because I saw something in the mirror. Just for 1 second. A dark shape standing behind her. Watching me. Smiling. We took her back to the village. Pastor Ezekiel said the spirit was trying to reclaim her permanently. The first battle didn't break the covenant. Only weakened it. He said it had followed her into marriage, waited until she was happy, and then attacked again. This time, he told us we had to find the root. Not just the ring. The original source. I remembered what Pa Okonkwo said, that sometimes, these things started before birth. So I went to find an old neighbor who knew Ada's mother. The woman was in her 70s. When I asked about Ada's mother, she hesitated. Then she said, there was something strange about her birth. I leaned in. She said Ada's mother had trouble conceiving. She visited a river shrine deep in the forest. Made a vow. Nobody knew exactly what she said there, but not long after, she got pregnant. She warned Ada never to go near that river. Never to speak about dreams. Never to wear white on her period. But she never told her why. That was the root. A spiritual vow made before birth. A covenant not broken. The woman said, to end it, you must go back to that shrine. Return what was taken. And reject what was given. Pastor Ezekiel agreed. But he said he wouldn't go near a river shrine. He told us to find a traditionalist who understood those things. We found one. Old man Ezenwa, deep in the bush. He listened. Then said, she must return alone. But she cannot speak. She must go naked, kneel, and drop an offering, white cloth, salt, and 3 eggs. Then she must say in her heart, I reject you. I break the vow. Leave me. And she must not look back, no matter what she hears. We prepared for the ritual. Ada didn't cry. She said, I'm tired. I want to be free. We took her to the forest, just before dawn. She walked in alone. We waited by the path. 20 minutes passed. Then we heard it. Screaming. Laughter. Drums. Voices. But we didn't move. We didn't go in. Then silence. She walked back. Eyes wet. Body shaking. She said, it's done. After the ritual, Ede changed. Slowly, but clearly, she started to laugh again. Sleep through the night. Eat full meals. No more dreams. No more whispers. No more shadows. She even said it one evening as we sat on the porch, I feel light. For the first time in years, her voice had no fear in it. We returned to Lagos after a few weeks. Emeka was waiting. He had moved their things to a new apartment, smaller but warm and bright. He hugged her like he thought he'd never see her again. Their life restarted again. And for months, everything was quiet. No strange dreams. No bleeding. No broken mirrors. We even started to forget. But I didn't. Because something was still not sitting right with me. I kept remembering what the Spirit said, she is mine. And, I'll be back. I believed in battles. But I also knew spirits don't just forget. One night, Ada called me. Her voice was shaking. She said, I think I'm pregnant. I congratulated her, but she was silent. Then she whispered, I'm scared. I didn't understand. She said she kept hearing a name in her dreams. Abidim. She didn't know what it meant. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw a child standing in water. The child would say, I'm coming. I'm yours. You called me. I didn't know what to say. I told her to pray. To stay calm. That maybe it was just fear playing games. But inside, I felt that coldness again. Weeks passed. She went to the hospital. The doctors confirmed it. She was pregnant. A healthy baby boy. Emeka was overjoyed. He told everyone. Posted it online. Took her to restaurants. Bought baby clothes. But Ada, she didn't smile much. She would touch her belly at night and whisper, please, don't let it be you. In her 7th month, something strange happened. She had a dream. This time, it wasn't a child. It was her mother. She was standing by the river. Crying. Saying, forgive me. Then she turned and walked into the water. Ada woke up screaming. The next morning, her water broke. Way too early. She was rushed to the hospital. The baby came. Fast. Too fast. A boy. But he wasn't crying. Doctors tried everything. After long minutes, the baby finally gasped and wailed. They cleaned him, checked his vitals, and wrapped him. When Ada saw him, she went quiet. Then she fainted. When she woke up later, she said she didn't want to hold him. Not yet. Emeka was confused. He said, why? He's perfect. But Ada kept staring at the baby like he wasn't human. Like she saw something we didn't. Later that night, a nurse found her standing by the window with the baby in her arms, whispering something in her language. The baby was staring straight into the mirror across the room. Not moving. Not blinking. Just staring. The nurse swore she saw the baby smile at the reflection. A slow, knowing smile. Now it's been 2 years. The boy is growing. Fast. Too fast. By 8 months, he was walking. By 1 year, he could speak full sentences. He never cries. Just watches. Listens. Waits. I visited last month. He walked up to me, looked into my eyes, and said, "Uncle, do you remember the river?" I froze. I had never told him anything. I had never mentioned the river. I asked, "What river?" He smiled and walked away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I heard small footsteps outside the guest room. I opened the door. No one was there. Just a small puddle of water, leading back to his room. I've tried to tell myself it's over. That maybe the boy is just strange. But some nights, Ada calls me. And she says things like, he talks to someone in his sleep. He says he has 2 fathers. He says I used to belong to the other one. Sometimes she just cries and says, I think he came back. And I don't know what to tell her. Because deep down, I think so too. So if you ever find yourself hearing whispers in the night, if your mirror cracks for no reason, if someone you love suddenly starts sleeping too deep, or not at all, if you feel cold air with no breeze, be careful. Because some spirits don't leave. They wait. And sometimes, they come back as children.